Carolina Storyteller tells stories that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Stay spooky, my friends. Hello, folks, and welcome to the Carolina Storyteller. I'm the Carolina Storyteller, Jonathan Phoenix, your storyteller for this podcast. It's a little late this episode. I apologize. There are some things going on, particularly here in South Carolina, where we've got a tropical storm coming through, and let's just place it. My other workplace isn't really on the ball with their thing, so I'm having to deal with some stuff with them. But that should not mean that I should not have time to tell you a story. So, before we get into the story, just want to remind you guys that if you go over to patreon.com/The Carolina Storyteller, you can start getting updates on everything going on with my upcoming production, Valmont. Valmont, The Black Raven Chronicles, will be coming out December 1st, 2024. It's going to be great. We've got a great cast. Everybody's putting in a lot of hard work. I just listened to the final cut of episode 1, and it was amazing. I loved it. I'm gonna pop a moment for a second, but my son Adam is actually doing some voice acting in this, and while I was listening to it with his mom and some other people, we were listening, and they're like, "Who is that? I thought that was the role you were giving to Adam." I'm like, "That was Adam. That was him. That was him doing that." I didn't recognize his voice. Well, good. That means he's doing his job. He's not sounding like himself. So just trust me when I say that this experience is going to be great. You guys are going to love it. It's going to be the next thing that Hulu comes to try and pick up, and we're going to be like, "No, Hulu, we're waiting on Netflix to call us." And Netflix is never going to call, and I'm going to be like, "If only I'd have went with Hulu." But Hulu is going to go with something by Grady Hendrix again or something like that. I don't know. Love you, Grady. Just playing around. And know you know who I am. You probably don't remember me. I hope Grady remembers me. Anyway, beyond the point of whether or not Grady Hendrix remembers me from Automacon, we want to get into today's story. And to tell today's story, I have to go back a little ways. We have to go back almost 45 years. You got to go back to 1979, ladies and gentlemen, to Douglas, Georgia, where a young man named Johnny was born. And then, shortly, in that same year, a recording group named Charles Daniels Band would write a song about a young man named Johnny who beat the devil in a fiddle contest, and it would be called "The Devil Went Down to Georgia," and everyone would know that song. And I'm just saying that the young man named Johnny was born in 1979 in Douglas, Georgia. Maybe who that song is about. Not necessarily saying, but that young man named Johnny grew up, moved to South Carolina, and became a storyteller. That's right. So, just maybe. But why am I talking about a young man named Johnny and Douglas, Georgia, and the devil went down to Georgia? Well, because of today's story. Today's story is about the Ashley-Slater House in Douglas, Georgia. That's right, the same place where I was born. I didn't grow up there because at 4, I got moved to South Carolina, and, well, we're not even going to go into my childhood. But, needless to say, my first 4 years, I lived in Douglas, Georgia, and I lived in the town limits. My grandmother's house was there, and there was always this weird, creepy house. It was kind of next door. And you know, I didn't know what the house was. Well, it turns out this house is a very famous house. It was built in the early 1900s by a man named John Ashley. And he built it for his wife, and they got married, and, you know, John got sick, and he died. This was the first death in the house. This house would end up getting a whole bunch of deaths, because not very long after John Ashley died, his wife, or was it Slater? No, I'm pretty sure it was Ashley first, then Slater. Anyway, his wife, who was probably a very lovely young woman. I mean, I'm not taking anything from her. That Miss Ashley, you know, after being married for such a short period of time, got remarried. But can we just talk about the fact that she marries another guy named John? I mean, how does that happen? That's right. The Ashley-Slater House was owned by the same woman who married two Johns. And that, to me, is just, well, it's a little weird, to say the least. I mean, how do you marry the same guy twice? Well, she didn't marry the same guy twice. She married two different guys. They just both had the same name. But that's beyond the point. We're talking about the Ashley-Slater House. And in general, John Slater wasn't the businessman that John Ashley was. In fact, he had fought in World War I and suffered from a condition that was known back then as shell shock. Now, this was a condition where the nervous system was completely taxed by some event. Some event forced the nervous system to be taxed to such a point that it kind of broke and created a scar, basically, an injury in the brain. And whenever something would dial back to that injury, whenever the brain's horses would hit that injury, it would reset the nervous system, basically. It would cause all kinds of things. We know this condition today as post-traumatic stress disorder. Back then it was called shell shock. And it's a brain injury caused by traumatic events where your nervous system is just overexcited. Something has pushed your fight or flight or freeze or fawn thing into overdrive, and it's left a scar. And unless it's processed properly, it's going to be there forever. And John Slater just happened to suffer from this. And it caused him to have difficulties in his life post-World War I. And eventually, it started to cause money problems. So his wife, who don't get me wrong, she loved John. She loved John to death. But she was getting annoyed with it because now they were having money problems. So one day they had this huge fight over the money. And, you know, he just, you know, he's like, look, I'm trying my best. I'm trying. She's like, no, you're not able to do it. I'm taking over all of the finances. I will manage the finances from now on. Now you got to think, this is the 1920s, 1930s, early part of America. A woman stepping up and taking that much control from a man, that did not bode well for his manly self-esteem. Nowadays, a modern guy is like, you want to take somebody, go, here you go. Whew, thank God somebody's taking that off of my plate. We wish that things would come off of our plate. We won't ask you to take them off the plate, but believe me when I say that if it's a guy that's out there trying to hold his own, he really wants stuff to come off of his plate. He's just going to keep putting it on his plate because Gen Xers are still raised with the toxic masculinity. Now, hopefully Gen Z kids aren't going to have this problem, and I don't know, we'll see, but I can tell you the Gen X people, we just have that problem where the guys have to take everything on themselves and act like we're superheroes, or at least I do. I don't know why. Anyway, that's how John Slater was. He thought he had to take everything on himself, and when his wife took that away from him, even though she was trying to do what was best for the family, it broke him. And so several days later, he hung himself in the hall of the house. And once again, there she was, losing a John. Starting to sound like she was something else. But no. Later she would rent the house out to try and, you know, share the home. As she waited for her son, who was also named John. This lady has a thing with Johns. To come home. Only he would die shortly before World War II. So she lost her John. She lost her first John, her second John, and her third John, all within the time of 15 years. I mean, this is a whole lot of Johns just gone. And eventually she passed on to the home. Now, at some point, the home was used as a doctor's office. At which point, apparently, a mother had come in deathly ill while she was with child, and the mother died. And there was a murder that occurred on the grounds, and there was another suicide that occurred on the grounds. all in all, between the time it was built and the 1970s, this house had suffered 6 mysterious deaths. The first 2, of course, being John Ashley and John Slater. At which point in time, the Coffee County, which is the county surrounding Douglas, Georgia, Chamber of Commerce, took the building over and made the building the town welcome center. That's where things started to get pretty hanky, because they started to experience strange happenings in the office. Files would be moved, doors would mysteriously open and close, they'd hear footsteps. Your normal paranormal things that are happening when a place is freaking haunted. Given that a lot of stuff has happened there. But it wasn't too bad until one morning when a woman came in to open the Chamber of Commerce and saw a man hanging there in the middle of the hall for just a brief second. She screamed, she yelled. Someone who was with her looked and was like, "What?" And she's like, "There's a man hanging." And then there was no man. That was the first time that John Slater was supposedly seen. After that, apparitions have been seen throughout the house over the last 40 some odd years. I mean, we're talking they've been seen upstairs. People have seen the woman. People have seen John Slater. People have seen John Ashley. People have seen the man that was supposedly killed in the back room of the house. They've seen apparitions. There have been paranormal investigators that have gone and gotten supposedly EVPs and everything and had all kinds of experiences, and they're trying to figure out which ghost is which. But in all honesty, perhaps it's that all the ghosts are there and the house is just dealing with all of this death that happened there. Who knows? What's my tie-in to this is that it turns out that this place was directly across the street from my grandmother's house when I was just a gay little infant, just a wee little boy of 1 to 4, well 0 to 4, and I had seen it many a time, and I did not know that it was haunted. And I had actually gone across the street. I'd walked with my aunts used to walk with all of the nieces and nephews that were walkable or carryable. Would take us to the store that was right down the street, and we'd walk right past the steps of this massive building that was right there in the neighborhood. And never once did I know that it was filled with ghosts and goblins. Of course, I was only 4. So I was raised right next to one of the biggest haunted places in southern Georgia and never knew. Never had an idea. Never knew about it. And of course, as I said, it was the 70s, particularly 79 was when the first apparitions were supposedly seen there. So, 79, Storyteller was born in Georgia. 79, ghosts are seen at the house that was real close to that Storyteller's grandmother. And 79, Charlie Daniels wrote Devil Went Down to Georgia. Coincidence? I think not. Okay. Still, I'm trying to figure out where I put that golden fiddle. Because obviously, if I were Johnny, I'd have a golden fiddle, and then I could fully fund my podcast by just selling it. I mean, what's a fiddle? Full fiddle made of gold is going to be about 3-4 pounds at, what's it, $2,000 an ounce? It's really only like $50,000 actually when you think about it, because, an ounce of gold is like... pound of gold, maybe like, I don't know, 100,000, maybe $50,000, $60,000. Not really a lot of money. Anyway, folks, that's our story. I hope you enjoyed it. Yes, I know I made a funny tie-in and allusion that I was Johnny. I'm probably not Johnny because I don't know how to play the fiddle, but if I was Johnny when I was very, very little, 0 years old, it would totally make sense why I'm telling you the story now. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys got something out of it. I think this is really great tie-in to my personal history, that there was this really cool haunted house literally right next to one of the only places I can remember from my time living in Georgia. So I thought it was a really cool story and something I had to share. If you are from Douglas, Georgia, and you happen to know something about the Ashley-Slater House, I know lots of people have shared lots of haunted experiences about the house. I would love to hear about them. You know, you can head over to thecarolinastoryteller.com and drop me a line. Find me on Facebook, Jonathan Phoenix, or The Carolina Storyteller. Either one is going to find me. You can find me on Twitter as The Carolina Storyteller. You could find me on Instagram. You could find me just about anywhere. And as always, you can support this podcast and the upcoming Valmont Fade to Black. The Black Raven Chronicles. Fade to Black is kind of the overall title of season 1. You guys weren't supposed to find that out yet until season 1 dropped, but I got a big mouth. Anyway, you can go support all of that by going to patreon.com /The Carolina Storyteller. You can subscribe for as little as $3 a month and help support the art and creativity that is going on here. Remember again, that is patreon.com /The Carolina Storyteller. I'll catch you guys next time. In the meantime, stay spooky, my friends. We'll see you soon.